so excited. Not only is it Friday, but I got an opportunity to work in the shop and get some clear butyrate dope this time, sprayed on the wing for the L2. It's August, so it's really hard to find days that aren't humid, and unfortunately this afternoon looked like a beautiful day to paint. As soon as I got home from work, got over here in the shop, got some dope mixed up, ready to spray. What do you guess? The skies opened up and it is pouring outside. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to crank the heat up. Fortunately, I got the ability to crank the heat up in the shop. I'm going to raise the temperature in here about 10 degrees, hopefully lower that relative humidity, and that'll make it so it's easier to spray without blushing. I'm also going to add a little bit of retarder into the mix. So normally it's a 1-to-1 mix, so 1 part clear butyrate dope to 1 part thinner. I'm going to take a little bit of thinner out, I'm going to add some retarder, and that's going to slow the curing process up of each spray coat of dope that I put on, and that'll allow the thinner to evaporate a little slower, and hopefully it won't grab that humidity and blush. So we'll give it a shot. I'm going to do a cross coat, see if it starts to blush. If it does, I'm going to call it quits for the night. We'll try again tomorrow, but it's Friday, I got some time, we got to give it a shot. Alright guys, I managed to squeak that out. I was able to get 2 good cross coats on the top of the wing without it blushing. I raised the temperature about 10 degrees in the shop. That wiped out any humidity in the shop, so I was able to spray the butyrate clear without it blushing. Again, high humidity is not good for butyrate dope. As soon as you spray it down, if your dope starts to get sort of a milky whitish haze, you want to stop, wait for a better day. In this case, it was pouring, so there was a lot of moisture in the air. So what I did is I turned the heat up in the shop, raised the ambient temperature, which lowered the relative humidity inside, and I was able to make it happen. So I'm hoping this weekend I can get up at least both sides through all of the clear, so I'm ready for my silver. Once I get my silver down, I'm going to do 2 cross coats of silver, let it set up, and then I'm going to wet sand the entire surface of the top and the bottom of the wing, remove most of the silver, and then I'll start again, spray another 2 to 3 cross coats of, again, silver or Randafill product, and keep doing that until I get the finish that I want before the color. So the rest of the night, got a cup of coffee here. I'm going to go get cleaned up and relaxed and get ready for a good day tomorrow. I'm hoping to pull the Fairchild out, do a little aviating in the morning, and then come back and do some work here in the shop on the L2. So have a great Friday, and we're getting closer to Oshkosh 2020. So a lot of work ahead. It's time to get it done. Alright, so had a great afternoon in the shop. I got a couple good cross coats of butyrate clear on the top surface of the L2 wing. So before I call it a night, I figured I would answer a couple questions that I've gotten over the last couple days. The first one was, how did I get into aviation? I guess I'll answer that this way. I always knew I wanted to learn to fly. Actually, when I was 12 years old, I convinced my parents that it was a good idea to take a 12-year-old out to the local airport to inquire about flight lessons. My dad took me out to New Garden Airport and dropped me off at the parking lot and said, son, if you're interested in learning to fly, go down and talk to a flight instructor and get some information. So I walked down the sidewalk at New Garden Airport, walked right into the flight school, and I could barely see over the countertop, but I stood up there and said, hi, my name's John Martin, and I want to learn to fly. The instructor kind of looked over at me down over top of the counter and said, son, why don't you come back in a few years when you're old enough to see over the countertop? So I left there pretty discouraged because I knew this was something that I wanted to do. I knew that it was a passion that I wanted to follow. So fortunately, my mom hooked me up with her hairdresser, Peter Malchione. And Pete was an avid remote-controlled aircraft builder and flyer. So I met him. He showed me his fleet of aircraft, and I was totally excited. And with Pete, I joined the local RC flying club known as the Keystone Eagles. It was in Partsburg, Pennsylvania. It was nothing more than a field out in the middle of farmland. But I went to a local nursery at the time. It worked out well because my mom was into flower beds and gardening. So half of the store, Montgomery Nurseries, was a nursery that sold shovels and tools and flowers and stuff like that for gardening, and the other half was dedicated to RC airplanes. So it was perfect. I didn't need to convince my mom to take me to the hobby store. She was interested in going to the nursery, so we went there, and I bought my first model airplane kit. It was a ARF, an almost ready to fly model. It was a Telemaster 70, and then with the help of Pete out at Parksburg at the Keystone Eagles, he taught me how to fly RC airplanes. Well, it quickly turned into a game of lawn darts for me. I could get it up, I could fly it around, but I did not understand the whole concept of how to land an aircraft, an RC airplane, and I put a lot of them into the ground. So long story short, I needed a job to now support my newfound love of RC airplanes. So at that point I was about 15, turning 15. I was 14, turning 15. I went back to New Garden Airport. This time, instead of to inquire about flying lessons, it was to inquire about a job. I was hired to pump gas, wash and wax airplanes, cut the grass, whatever I could do to make a buck. It was awesome. I was around airplanes, made a lot of good friends, but I was introduced to a couple by the name of Tailspin Tommy and Cash Register Kate. They flew a 1929 open cockpit biplane. It was a Travel Air, 1929 Travel Air. They put me in the front seat of that and took me for an airplane ride, and it was an unbelievable experience, an experience I remember like it was yesterday, even today. And when I got on the ground, that was it. I was hooked. I was fortunate enough to solo when I was 16. I got my license when I was 17. I continued my aviation interest through high school and through college. I went to Penn State University. I studied marketing and advertising. And I continued flying at Bellefonte Airport, which is right outside of State College. I got my more advanced ratings there, and set a goal that after I graduated college, I would restore my own airplane and fly to Oshkosh. And in 2004, I did just that. I finished my first full total restoration, which is a 1943 Taylorcraft L2, just like the airplane that I'm working on right now. And my wife and I flew it to Oshkosh in 2004. 65 horsepower engine. It took 2 days to get there, but it was such a surreal experience. But along the way, at New Garden Airport, I met a lot of wonderful people, and I think you'll find in the aviation world, in the aviation community, 99.9% of the people are terrific. I met a father and son team, Joe Dinest and Mark Dinest, they restored PT-19s, and I just loved watching them do what they do. And one day Joe gave me a piece of paper, sandpaper, and showed me how to sand a wing of a fabric aircraft. And that was it. I mean, that was my love of antique airplanes was born at that point. And I tell everybody I have OAD, old airplane disease, and I blame Joe because of that. But they kind of took me under their wings and showed me the ropes of aircraft restoration work. And I just fell in love with it. And hence the reason that I wanted to set a goal for myself to restore an airplane and fly to the world's biggest air show, Oshkosh EAA Air Venture. And in 2004 I did that. And I tell everybody that if you're interested in aviation, all you got to do is go for a flight, and then you're hooked for the rest of your life. It's very addicting, and it's a great hobby, it's a great career, and it's just a great place to be, especially right now for youngsters looking to get into a career of aviation. So the question is, what is the goal for the channel, my YouTube channel? Well, for starters, I'm new to this, but you don't see a whole lot of videos on aircraft restoration from the ground up to final completion to an end goal. And my end goal is to get the L2 out to Oshkosh in 2020, but not by me flying it, by my son, who's now 13, will be 14 next year. He's got a strong desire in learning to fly. He's been helping a lot with this restoration project, and the goal really is to have this airplane so he can learn to fly a tailwheel airplane and pilot it with me in the back, of course, since he's only going to be 14, to the world's greatest air show, EAA Air Venture, Oshkosh 2020. So I'm very excited about it. We're going to retrace the journey my wife Rachel and I took back in 2004, hopefully, and we're going to get this airplane to Oshkosh. And the process here, the thought process here, is to record the remainder of the restoration, throw up some YouTube videos online for you all to watch, and hopefully to inspire somebody that's younger or older to pick up trade a plane or barnstormers and buy an airplane project and restore it. This is my third airplane project, my second total restoration, and I just love every aspect of it. It's not about just rebuilding an airplane. It's a history lesson, learning about where this airplane was during World War II, the construction methods used during 1943, and really the entire process. So I want to share that with you. I hope to inspire somebody along the way, and also have a successful flight out to Oshkosh with JJ at the controls and landed on the big runway on the yellow dot. If you watch this video or one of my earlier videos and you find it interesting, I'm going to continue doing these short videos about the restoration of a 1943 Taylorcraft L2. We'll probably also talk about just some aviation topics along the way, maybe some footage from Newgarden Airport where I work. I'm the aviation director there for Newgarden. So if you like what you're seeing, please subscribe down below. There's a subscribe button down at the bottom left here, and you can hit that and continue to watch any future videos.
Hey Bob.